Welcome to the Dusty Jobs podcast from Imperial Systems. Industry knowledge to make your job easier and safer.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dusty Jobs podcast. We're in our new studio today, filming our second season, episode 1 of the Dusty Jobs podcast. We're glad that you guys could all make it back. If you like how this looks and you think we're doing a good job here, we'd be glad to show you our entire facility. We're doing virtual tours and virtual demos now. So if you like that, you can log on to our website and let us know. We'll be glad to give you a full tour. Today, as a guest, we have our Vice President, Chalmer Ritzert. How you doing today, Chalmer?
Good, Donovan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking a minute out of your busy schedule to come and spend a couple.
Sure.
Telling us a little bit about yourself and your history, and we're going to talk a little bit about how Imperial's growing and changing, and some things we have going on here. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's exciting stuff. Now, if I remember this correctly, you haven't always been in dust collection your entire life, right? Your entire career. Your career started somewhere else, right?
No, I have not been in dust collection my entire life.
Yeah.
I've been in manufacturing for over 25 years now, but I actually started in the automotive industry.
Okay. Now, that was straight out of college?
Straight out of college. I did my internship, and then I worked for a company in the automotive industry, a Tier 1 automotive manufacturer.
Okay.
We made parts for General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, numerous companies, but our main customer was General Motors. And we were actually an injection molding company.
Okay.
We made interior and exterior doors, dashboards, those kinds of things, and then exterior bumpers and side fascias and spoilers and all the things you'd see on the outside of cars, and we shipped them directly to the automotive manufacturers, put right on the cars.
Gotcha. So you guys were in a parts facility, had machines that kind of shot injection into a mold and then it popped out a part. Is that right?
We had enormous injection molding machines, we would make hundreds of thousands of parts a week, and if they were exterior, we would paint them and assemble them, send them to all over the world, but all over to assembly plants where they would put the parts in and sequence them in place and then put the parts on the cars. And we would do the same thing with door panels, with dashboards, with center bezels, those kinds of things.
Right. Now, you weren't working the paint line there, or no? What was your role at that?
So when I first started out of college, my degree is actually in environmental health and safety.
Oh, okay.
And so I was first hired in environmental health and safety, and there was about 700 employees in one facility, and we had another 700 in another facility. And I was responsible to do environmental health and safety, and in a painting operation, those kinds of things, environmental is a huge piece.
Oh yeah,
and safety is another huge piece. So I kind of cut my teeth as a 22-year-old kid out of college doing that kind of stuff. And I did all the permitting, I did all the reporting, I did all the inspections, I did everything.
Oh man,
for that. So that was kind of what I went to college for. Somewhere along the line, I got the opportunity to fill in for a manufacturing manager of the company.
Oh, okay.
And he had left, and they said, "Hey, will you fill in for this guy?" 'Cause I was into everything. Will you fill in for this guy while we try to fill the position? And then I said, sure, I would love to fill in for him. I said, the only thing that I ask is that you give me the opportunity
to interview
at the position as well.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of where everything started. I slowly started to move out of the environmental health and safety portion of it. I still maintain all of those responsibilities, but I moved into manufacturing manager, where I had about 400 employees for me at that time, and I was responsible for all the injection molding in the company, 3 shifts, 7 days a week. Just a very high stress, high volume, high quality, I got all of my experience in terms of lean manufacturing, in terms of high pressure, in terms of making sure that parts were on time and parts were perfect, and those kinds of things early on in my career.
Yeah,
I used to have this full head of hair, and then I got into automotive.
Didn't we all?
And now look at me. That's a direct result of being in the automotive industry, and anybody who's in the automotive industry will tell you it is one of the most high stress. High volume, just can be crazy at times.
Yeah, but I that's so interesting that you from that environmental position into that management position. I'm sure that when you were in that environmental position, it just gave you an opportunity to kind of see how everything was working, and so that just lent itself right to having probably a better understanding.
So for me, first of all, I had some people in my life in the company that were great mentors, and second of all, as being the environmental health and safety person, you're kind of involved in everything. You're involved in the day-to-day, doing this and moving people around. You have to be from a job rotation and an ergonomic standpoint, and making sure people are fitted for the job and the workstations are right. And you get into engineering, you get into machine design, you get into all of those kinds of things. So I'm involved in the day-to-day operations, and I'm just I'm there. I'm kind of around it all the time. I'm kind of involved. I'm kind of having conversations. I'm doing those kinds of things. And the guy that was the manufacturing manager, he literally just left one day, and they were kind of high and dry. So they've got a 3-shift operation, 400 people with no manager. But what was really interesting was the very next day they put me in charge, and the very next day me going to the people in the department saying, okay, I was the safety manager yesterday. Today I'm in charge. and I'm 23.
Yeah. So how long were you in that role? Then did you stay with that company for a while? Did you move on to another company?
I did. I stayed with that company until for 11 years, and doing that same thing. And that company unfortunately closed.
Gotcha.
Which was a sad day, but it closed in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I went from there to a different type of automotive company.
Okay.
Where they made shipping containers for automotive parts, for the tier 1 supplier. So when you would make the parts at the tier 1 supplier, they put them in a reusable metal rack.
Okay.
And those racks had to be specially designed for all those parts to go back and forth.
So that's a little more heavy fab.
It was a very heavy fab. So I went from injection molding to metal work, to
gotcha.
Welding, to that kind of thing. And I was with that company for a while. And it was... unfortunately, I laugh, but it also closed.
Oh man, this is not
none of this is my fault. But I like to say that I learned a lot of lessons along the way because of the failures of the companies that I was with.
Right.
You know what I mean? And manufacturing is manufacturing, but you start to learn different processes, you start to learn different things, and so I was really from a manufacturing standpoint, I was really good at the automotive kind of thing. I could play the game, and I could make things happen. I was solid in the environmental portion of those kinds of things. Who did ever guess that I ended up in dust collection?
Well, yeah. How in the world did you go from? This seems like
well, it gets even better because I leave the automotive industry, and I actually got involved in a company that made the largest company in the world that made promotional products. And we made and decorated promotional products. Largest company in the world that does it.
Okay.
And
when you say promotional product, I'm not even sure I know what that means.
Water bottles, pens, MP3 players, anything that has a logo on it from a company, we made.
So you're saying if I go to a trade show and I'm filling my bag up with stuff, all that stuff is what you guys made.
It's got to come from somewhere. It's what we made. And there was a boom in manufacturing and in the economy in 2006, 2007 and around there. And this company had grown, and then they had bought a new facility, and it was just an empty building. And they hired me as the plant manager to take over and build that facility up.
Oh, okay.
And I did that. We got up to about 300 employees and about a 400,000 square foot manufacturing facility. It was pretty neat. Real good opportunity for me. in 2009, the economy dropped and the place closed.
Well, we all know what happened in 2008. So yeah, 2008, 2009.
So yet another company that Chalmer was at closed down. And as they were starting to announce that the place was going to close, there was an ad in the local newspaper that said operations manager needed, and I called the number, and it was just a little short note, and I called the number, and the rest is history. Here I am.
Then you got Jeremiah on the other line.
I didn't get Jeremiah. I got the lady who was the accountant at the time.
Oh.
And she said, he'd like to meet with you. Come in, bring your resume, and that kind of stuff. And I met a couple of times, and it was weird for me because I had been a high volume automotive, doing those kinds of things, lots of employees, hundreds of employees, and managing all of the workings of that kind of stuff. And I show up for my interview, and it's a small place. They've got like 18 employees at the most. And, it was just a different vibe altogether. And I pulled into the parking lot for that first interview, and I'm thinking, maybe this isn't my fit. But something pulled me inside, and I went in and I met with Jeremiah, and him and I hit it off. Him and I, we have a good relationship, and we've had a good relationship since day one. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. Yeah. And be honest with you, best decision I ever made in my life.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, we're as a person who works here, we're glad to have you. We're glad you chose to come here. It seems, you're a great go-to person for a lot of.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And if anybody out there is listening and is curious, this is not the announcement of the shutdown of Imperial Systems. We are still going strong.
So I would like to reiterate all of the good lessons that I learned by being involved in those. Because I know now not to do those kinds of things. Well, and I know the kinds of things that will make us successful.
Yeah, and I will speak to this, that I think just the success we've had in the last year and the way we've been able to pull through it as a company, the year of 2020, and where that could have went and where we're actually at is incredible. And I think that is a lot due to you and Jeremiah and everybody here just pulling through and using a lot of wisdom in what we have and knowledge and experience. And we actually... In my opinion, I think we came through 2020 stronger than we went into it.
Absolutely. And, 2020. You can say about the pandemic, and you can say about all the issues that it caused, but first of all, I believe that issues like those will only make you stronger. Yeah. And secondly, I believe that we made good decisions. We made some poor ones. I wouldn't say that we're perfect, but we made some good decisions, and we managed things well. And to be honest with you, it's easy to make good decisions when you have the backing of really good people, and that I would say that's the blessing of Imperial Systems for me is the people that work here.
Well, thanks. I know we all appreciate hearing you say that, and. I think the other thing that really helped lean towards our success during this year is that our whole model, our whole idea, our whole process here is being a lean manufacturer and not having a lot of waste and not having a lot of overhead in that, because we've taken this lean model. And I know that's something you champion a lot, and that's a lot of coming from you and your history in automotive. Can you speak to that? How our philosophy on that here and...
So automotive is very high on the lean manufacturing principles. It could be Six Sigma, it could be 5S.
Let me pause you for 1 second, because maybe we got somebody out there listening who doesn't understand what lean manufacturing is. So we might have to define that for you. Could you give us a quick definition on what lean is?
For me, the best way to describe lean is how you can do your job easier. Yeah. I mean, for me, that's the most simple, broke down way to explain how we can make the job easier for people. Right. So if you're looking at lean, at the ultimate end of the day, is how can you make it easier for that person and eliminate waste, time, or whatever.
Taking less steps, using less material.
To be honest with you, it's a lot of common sense. Is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing you say, we talk about, we have a Wednesday morning meeting all the time talking about what we're trying to make more lean. And one of the things I've heard Jeremiah say and you say is, if there's something that annoys you, let us know because we're going to try to fix it.
Absolutely.
And so that's
fix what bugs you.
Yeah, fix what bugs you.
Fix what bugs you.
But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but keep going. How does that impact our company, our culture, our community here?
So when I was involved in those lean manufacturing projects, huge lean manufacturing projects, and I saw success, but where I saw success was when it was broken down individually and kept as simple as possible. And then I would see that grow. I would say about 5 to 6 years ago, we were made aware of a local presentation on a process called 2-second lean, and I had been, and I'm skeptical. And just to a certain extent, I can be skeptical about a lot of things. And, I had been traditionally trained, like I said, in the 6 Sigma, 5S, those types of processes. And I went to this conference and they were talking about this 2-second lean. And it is such a simple process. It is so simple. And it literally is fix what bugs you.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah and I both fell in love with it right from the get-go. It's really hard to institute a huge, sweeping thing, but 2-second lean is so simple that people just kind of buy into it and go with it.
Yeah.
For us, that is, we identify waste. We empower people to identify waste, to look for waste. But the key to it for us is that I don't want you to come to me to say, I got a solution. What do you think about doing this? I want you to come to me and say, look what I did. And I made my day better.
Yeah.
And I fixed this.
Yep.
And I did this, or I moved this, and I made my day better. We're trying to empower people to have the authority to change their own day.
Yeah.
To fix things on their own.
Yeah.
And it's been hugely successful.
Right.
They don't need that kind of permission to move
the garbage can 2 feet closer.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's that little stuff that that makes such a huge difference
in
people's day. And when you add that all up at the end of the year, the process is so much better.
Right.
The product is so much better.
Yeah.
People are so much happier.
Yeah.
And
it's great if you do a virtual demo with us and you do a virtual tour with us, you can go through and you can see all our carts and how everything is labeled, and there's shadow spots where all the tools go, and just to help the guys in the shop stay organized and allow them to not be wondering where things went or having to pull all their tools from here to there. Everything's on a cart and wheels. It's really neat to see all that.
Yeah, I mean, you put a little effort behind that stuff. A lot of that stuff's not very expensive to put into place.
Yeah.
A lot of that is, Harold in assembly doesn't want to walk 20 feet every 5 minutes to pick up a different tool.
Right.
Well, give all Harold's tools right there where he's working.
Yeah.
And have him so that he can do it. I mean,
let him load the cart up with all the bolts he needs, and he wheels the whole thing over.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, if you don't put some effort behind it,
right,
you're going to waste all that time.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I've noticed since I've been here is that not only are we willing to do the little things to make our process more lean and efficient and possibly one of the most up-to-date fab shops in our area. I couldn't tell you how far, but I mean, I know we've been making some moves to, I mean, you could talk more about that. You've been very essential in making all that happen.
Sure. Again, we learn by failing.
Yeah.
And, when you first start out in a business and you're growing a business and you use what's available to you,
right, to
get the job done. And you use what you can afford,
right?
And as you grow, you start to look at different options. And we are trying to look at, we make investments, put it that way. We make investments in equipment, in processes that make people's lives easier,
right?
That make our product better. And what we find is that inevitably every one of those things pay for themselves very quickly.
Yeah.
For example, we. In the olden days, in the first iterations of the C-Max, those were all wet painted,
right?
And it was a brutal process to wet paint these things. It wasn't environmentally friendly. It just wasn't. It
right.
just wasn't. And we invested in probably one of the largest batch powder coating operations around.
When you're saying large, you could fit.
I could park 2 of my trucks in our bake oven.
Yeah, it's huge.
Easily. We make big stuff.
Right.
We make big stuff. You make big stuff, you got to paint big stuff.
Right.
And we invested. We did a lot of research in how these different powder coating operations worked and what kind of material handling system we wanted to use for it, and what kind of guns and what kind of there was a lot of research that went into it, and we came down to this operation now where we can paint a 14, 15 foot diameter bag house in our and put it in our oven and bake it,
right,
and there are no batch ovens around
that would be even close to
could even come close to doing something like that.
Yeah. And that also, not only did that make our product stronger, last longer, it's healthier, it's more environmental, but it made it faster.
Oh, we went from, in an 8-hour shift, painting maybe 2 rounds with wet paint to painting 12 to 16 rounds with powder coat. Made the quality better. Made the product better. In addition, we have 0 environmental footprint here.
Right.
There's no exhaust from the paint. It's nothing. The wash that we use is environmentally safe. It doesn't go anywhere. It's evaporated off.
Yeah.
So
it's better for all those guys that are working on the paint line.
Absolutely.
It's healthier for them
and for the community.
Yeah.
There's nothing coming out of. Nothing going into the water here, nothing going into the air here. We're very, very conscious of our environmental footprint.
Yeah, and it cuts our lead times down.
Oh,
for our
absolutely.
customers, it lets us get our product out to our customers a lot faster.
Absolutely.
Too. So
absolutely.
So we've done that. That's our one thing. That's just one of many. You got anything else you want to touch on that we've done recently?
We invested in a new brake press. To try and speed the process up. The newer brake presses are fast, and they're considerably more accurate. And what happens is we're able to break our parts quicker. We're able to break more parts, eliminating welding in a lot of cases, or shortening up the amount of welding that's necessary. Our parts fit better together. We're able to break the parts that we do break faster. It has been a huge, what once was a huge bottleneck in our process, is now one of our best manufacturing.
It's very
efficiencies out there. We have just recently gone down the road and started to invest in our laser. For years, we've used plasma cutting.
Right.
And plasma cutting, high accuracy, does a great job. I'm a huge fan of it. You can do big stuff on it. We needed to pick up some speed.
Right.
And a laser is faster. It has its limitations in terms of size and those kinds of things, but it certainly gives us this speed, and the cleanup afterward. There's no slag or anything on the steel, and the cleanup afterward is considerably better. So we've invested in one of the newest and greatest lasers for our facility, and it will be installed here before too long.
Yeah. So if you have a cleaner cut, a better bend, that just takes less time for the guys to weld it, less grinding, right?
Absolutely. You think about, when in a normal manufacturing process for sheet metal, there's a lot of grinding and buffing and cleaning up corners and knocking off slag and that kind of stuff. If you can eliminate those kinds of things prior to paint, and the stuff's coming out nice and clean, we're making a better product. And we're making it faster.
And that's healthier for the guys, too.
And it's absolutely healthier for the guys.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, who was it? One of our welders, his name's slipping me, he does all our tubes. And
Terry.
Terry was he was telling me that he got to try a new welder out. Mm-hmm. And then something happened with that. He had to go back to the old welder, and he felt like he was welding in sand or something. He was telling me it was so slow. I don't know what's this new welder that Terry got.
So Terry makes the header tanks the C-Maxes.
Yeah.
He's the main guy for making the header tanks on the C-Maxes. And it can be a tedious process.
Right.
And so we had reached out to the welding supplier, and they had brought us a demo unit of what's called a pulse welder.
Okay.
And it's just a different way to weld. And Terry fell in love with it.
Yeah.
It was faster. There was no BBs or slag coming off of the weld to clean up or anything like that. And it was great. It was a demo, and it was a very expensive demo. And Terry kept stopping me. Are we gonna keep this, or what are we gonna do? And finally, we had to get the demo back, and so Terry had to go back to his old welder. And Terry wasn't a huge, but I remember the day when I got to walk out there and tell him, "Hey, Terry, your new welder will be here in a week or so," and he got a new welder. In fact, that welder works so well that we've actually bought more of those welders for the facility, and we're using it in other areas.
Wow.
Less cleanup, faster, those types of things. They're a little more expensive type welder, but they pay for themselves very quickly.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about fixing things that bugs you, or thinking about getting things that go quicker and do those kinds of things, these are investments that Imperial makes to even in the downtimes. Right. To try and make our product better and faster.
Yeah, it benefits our employees, it benefits our environment, and it benefits our end users in the end. And
Absolutely.
That's why we can offer a lifetime warranty on our products.
Absolutely.
Because we are so assured of the quality of what's going out that we feel confident in doing that.
There is not this facility right now is operating at as the highest it's ever operated from a quality standpoint, from a speed standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. It's never operated like this.
Right. Yeah. We're excited for 2021.
Right.
And continuing to be a lean company and continuing to make those improvements. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to have you on again in 2 years and see where we're at then.
We're going to continue to invest.
We are.
We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to push forward and be the best. And that's the intention. Is if we are the best here, then we're putting out the best product that you can buy.
Yeah. Well, Chalmer, I just want to say thanks for coming on. I know you're busy. You have a lot on your schedule, and taking a minute to catch everybody up on what's going on in our company and how we're continuing to improve and move forward. And I just want to say, if you guys enjoyed this, if anybody out there's listening, we have some more backlog that you can listen to those too. If you want to subscribe, we're putting these out every month. Like us on Facebook. We put this on every social media aspect out there. So like, subscribe, do that. And until we get a chance to talk to you again, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good day.
Again, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Dusty Jobs podcast. Breathe better, work safer.